ABC News Election 72 continues, brought to you by J.C. Penney. Tomorrow morning, our 1,700 stores and our catalog will be waiting to help you find what you're looking for. Now from election headquarters in New York, Harry Reasoner and Howard K. Smith.
Richard Nixon has won re-election to his second term as President of the United States with 17% of the popular vote recorded. He is holding a steady almost 2-to-1 now lead over George McGovern. Almost 9 million votes for President Nixon, about 4.5 million votes for Senator McGovern. ABC News projects that President Nixon has also won 293 electoral votes, 23 more than he needs, the 270 minimum. Senator McGovern has only 17, the District of Columbia and the state of Massachusetts.
The latest state we've added to that electoral vote is by projection is North Dakota with its 3 electoral votes. That's no surprise. North Dakota is Nixon's private property. He's always carried it every time he's won. His North Dakota's 3 electoral votes bring the total up to 293. We've neglected the House of Representatives tonight because it's been hard to get all those results in between the results of the Senate races and the presidential contests. Let's take a look at the House board now. So far, the Democrats have elected 136 members to the House. 435 is the total. The Republicans have elected 94. The Republicans have won a net gain of 3.
We now have another major projection in the presidential race, Howard. ABC News will project that President Nixon will take New York, which is a major state to take, and always hard for a Republican, and requires him to run well in New York City, what he's been doing. So far, there's very little of the popular vote reported, but our key precincts indicate that he will take it. He will win New York.
That's 41 more electoral votes. The second most populous state in the Union. It used to be the first most populous. Well, we saw the House results a while ago. Let's take a look at how the Senate looks now so far tonight. The Senate races. The Democrats have won 6. The Republicans have won 5. The Democrats are the only ones who've gained a seat they did not have before. We'd like to take a look at 2 races that are very close and that deserve watching. We haven't been able to declare because they've been too close. The state of Delaware, first of all, in the Senate race there, the incumbent Senator Caleb Boggs is running a little behind a man named Joseph Biden, who is too young to go into the U.S. Senate. He won't be 30 until November the 20th. Boggs is lagging behind Biden. And another race of interest in the state of Michigan, an incumbent Republican, Robert Griffin, faces a contest from the Attorney General of the state, Frank J. Kelly. Griffin maintains a lead there, as you see.
In Washington right now is a man who must be very happy, Senator Robert Dole, the chairman of the Republican National Committee. He's with ABC's David Shoemaker. David?
Happy about 11 on a scale of 10, I guess. Senator Dole, you have once again become a genius in your own time. Everybody, I guess, is tonight.
Everybody's a genius. But as I've been saying, I think you give 99% of the credit to Richard Nixon, you divide up the other 1%, take any part of it you want. But I'm still not completely happy because I don't see enough Republican gains in the Senate and the House. I think it's a great personal triumph for Nixon, but I haven't seen the filter down effect yet that I would like as a Republican chairman.
Well, it's not really a secret, is it, that you've been privately kind of critical of the way the campaign has been run. Are you saying I told you so tonight upstairs? Or,
not critical, but I look around the room, I don't see the word Republican anywhere, and I am a Republican, and I want to build our party, and I know President Nixon wants to build our party. So all I say, we've got a lot of work to do in the next 4 years.
Senator Dole, how do you account for the fact that a greater effort has not been made to bring senators into the Republican column in this election?
Well, I think a great effort was made by the president. I don't criticize the president. He wrote letters, made TV spots, still pictures, made phone calls.
But he didn't do much traveling, though, did he?
He made personal visits to Michigan and Oklahoma, I think some 16 states, Georgia, some where senators are running.
Well, Senator Dole, this is Harry Reasoner. You could get the impression this time that the party winning tonight is the New American Majority Party. Does this mean that it's just a 4-year phenomenon?
I'm not certain I could answer the question since I didn't hear it, but...
But that's never bothered you, Senator.
Never bothered me before. Maybe I'll give it a try. But I'm just saying, as the chairman of the party, I'd be happier, and I may yet be happier by midnight if we pick up 5 seats in the Senate and we change some things in the House and pick up some governors.
Well, what does it really look like now? Have you given up all hope of taking the Senate?
Well, I haven't given up all hope. There's still several races in doubt. There are always some surprises. We had a bad one in Kentucky. Maybe there'll be some bad ones on the other side.
Senator Dole, thank you.
We'll have more on Election 72 in just a moment.
Once there was a lady who fell in love with JCPenney robes at the JCPenney store in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. She loved the colors. She loved the styles. She loved the beautiful fabric. She even loved the price. And finally, she chose the robe she loved the best. When she came out of the store, she got into her car, and she drove, and drove, and drove, until she came to Santa Monica, California, and saw the sunset over the Pacific. And she said,
"Oh, no, I should have chosen purple."
So she drove right off to the JCPenney store in Santa Monica, California, and she said,
"I fell in love with your blue robe in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, but now I want the purple."
And they said, "If we have it, madam, it's yours. If we don't, we'll give you a refund." They had it, at the same price, of course, and she took it. She was last seen trying on a green robe in our store in Amarillo, Texas. At JCPenney, we know what you're looking for.
President Nixon is continuing to increase his electoral vote lead over Senator McGovern in the presidential race in New Mexico. ABC News now projects that President Nixon will take that state and its 4 electoral votes, bringing him up to 338 at least, maybe 342 now. I'm not sure whether that's included. We've been watching the various governor races tonight, and they are coming in slower than the presidential races. We have declared 4 winners. In Indiana, Otis Bowen, the Republican candidate, has won. In Texas, Dolph Briscoe, the Democrat. In Arkansas, Dale Bumpers, the Democratic incumbent, has won. And in Kansas, Robert Docking, the Democrat, has won an unprecedented 4th term. So far, what that means is that there's no net gain for either party. Of those elected today, the 3 Democratic victors take Democratic seats or remain in office, and the 1 Republican victor replaces a Republican. In West Virginia, which is one of the most dramatic of the races for governor, it's a little bit less certain. At the moment, with 23% of West Virginia's results in, the incumbent Governor Arch Moore, a Republican, is leading John D. Rockefeller IV, J. Rockefeller, by 52 to 48%. And this does not indicate yet that we are in any position to project the winner there. It was figured to be a neck-and-neck race. In North Carolina, a similarly close race in the race for governor there. The Democrat, Hargrove Bowles Jr., is ahead, 52% to 48%, by about the same margin as his Republican is in West Virginia, but still no basis for making a projection. Close races. In the presidential race in Louisiana, ABC News projects that Richard Nixon will take the state of Louisiana and its 10 electoral votes, bringing the total now to 348. Very few of the precincts have reported there, but our key precincts indicate Mr. Nixon will take it.
Harry, Louisiana has not voted for a Democrat since John F. Kennedy. It's almost gone out of the Democratic column. It voted for Nixon, it voted for Wallace, now it's voted for Nixon.
The Solid South is beginning to mean something different from what it meant when I studied political science.
It's been pretty solidly Republican. The only thing that kept it from being solidly Republican before was George Wallace, and now that he's not in it, it certainly is a Republican enclave.
It also stumbled into being solidly Republican. You remember that when Dwight Eisenhower was president and Meade Alcorn was his chairman of the National Committee, and with Richard Nixon's great cooperation, they began what they called Operation Dixie, with something like $1 million to make the Republicans a force in the South. But the intention then was to make the Republicans the party of the liberal awakening of the New South. And it worked. In 1960, Mr. Nixon did very well in places like Kentucky and border states and others, better than any Republican had ever done. But Barry Goldwater turned that all around, intentionally or not.
So we do see a new South. The South is rising again as a Republican phenomenon. Nixon's going to make a clean sweep of the South from everything we can see. We've given in Florida, by our projection, Florida with 17 electoral votes. It's always gone to him before, so none of these states come as a surprise.
In North Carolina, where Mr. Nixon has been projected the winner, but where the race for governor is still in doubt. ABC's Bill Matney is talking to the Democratic candidate, Hargrove Bowles Jr. Bill?
Yes. We have Mr. Bowles here. He's already set something of a record here in North Carolina. He spent $1.3 million in his campaign, and that's the first time a candidate here in the state has ever gone over $1 million. How much has it helped you, Mr. Bowles?
Well, you won't know till the night's over. I think we're going to win it, though.
Tell me, there are 2.3 registered voters in the state. Democrats have 1.8 million of them, and yet these races here in the state are just nip and tuck. Yours and also the Senate race.
Yes, they are. Of course, this has always been a state that split the ticket somewhat for the last, 10 years or so. It's been a ticket-splitting state, and I think we're going to see a tremendous ticket splitting this time, all the way up and down the line. We're getting some Republican votes, and my opponent's getting some Democratic votes.
Well, now, let's talk about the coattails effect again. Mr. Nixon came in, and of course your opponent was pictured with him. He embraced him and said, vote for him.
Sure.
And you spent a lot of money. How do you relate the two now?
Well, the coattail effect, there's no question, it's strong. But I don't believe the people of the state are going to let that affect it enough to cause us to lose the race. I really don't.
Do you feel now at this point that a man has to be wealthy, a man has to have a large supply of money to win? Mr. Helms is running in the Senate race, has had a lot of outside money.
I don't. It takes a lot of money to communicate. It takes a lot of money to buy television time. That's the #1 expense. If you could get a lot of good free time like this, you wouldn't need to buy it. But to tell how you stand on issues, you must spend money to buy time.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bowles. Now back to New York.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles and Bill Matney. We'll have more on Election 72 in just a moment.
Our coverage of Election 72 will continue after this message from Ford.
When you buy a car, you expect to be happy with it. You pay out hard-earned money, and in return, you want your money's worth. And because they listen, one car company and 6,283 dealers are going to be doing business differently. At the dealers, you'll find that all service work is guaranteed for 90 days or 4,000 miles, whichever comes first. If the repair or replacement fails in normal service within that period, they'll fix it free of charge, parts and labor. The dealers will do everything they can to see that if you've got a problem, it ends with them. And to take care of the problems that don't end with the dealer, the company has formed an exclusive new division, a customer service division, to get things done when nobody else can. The car company is Ford Motor Company, and together with 6,283 Ford and Lincoln Mercury dealers, they'll do everything they can to keep you happy. For the address of the Ford Customer Service Division office nearest you, call 800-648-4848. The goal, no unhappy owners. They really mean it. They'd like to prove it to you.
We have a projected result of an important Senate race in New Hampshire. In the Senate race in New Hampshire, we project that Thomas McIntyre, the incumbent, will retain his seat in the Senate, defeating the Republican J. Wesley Powell. Well, in Washington, President Nixon's #1 domestic affairs advisor is John Ehrlichman, and David Shoemaker is with him now in the Shoreham Hotel in Washington. David?
Howard, he feels too good. I'm going to ask him whatever happened to Watergate.
I don't know. Apparently nothing.
Are we going to see any more happen after this election?
Well, you know, they've got a trial of the accused in that case, and that's going to be tried in due course, and I think that's probably the end of the story.
Just to keep you off balance and not let you gloat too much, Senator Dole was just here, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, and he said while it was a remarkable victory for the president, he was still disturbed that he didn't see more of an identification with the Republican Party, that it wasn't enough of a Republican victory.
Well, I can understand Bob saying that. He's the president, he's the chairman of the Republican Party. I think the thing that the president's been talking about is the thing that he really sincerely feels about that we're seeing in this election the vote of confidence of a new American majority that transcends party, that transcends race or particular interest group, that is a very broad-based expression of approval of the policies that the president has advanced over the last 4 years.
Mr. Ehrlichman, this is Harry Reasoner.
Hello, Harry.
How do you put that kind of a policy into effect from one election to the next? What happens in 1976 to this majority?
I think that remains to be seen. For my part, of course, I'm interested in how it works in the Congress in the next 2 years. As you know, there's a lot of legislation that we moved to the Congress in the last 4 years that didn't get acted on. I'm very encouraged to see a bipartisan support out in the hustings by a number of candidates for the Congress who have moved very close to the president's position on a lot of national issues. I think we're going to see a new American majority in the Congress that perhaps is across party lines on some of the really fundamental domestic issues, and I'm very encouraged.
Mr. Ehrlichman, real quickly,
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
In spite of that, I'm going to assume if you had your druthers, you would have prefer to have a Republican-controlled Congress. Now, I know of 8 seats in the Senate that were possible for the Republicans to win. Don't you think that you should have made a greater effort, a personal effort by the president to win some of those?
Well, it's questionable as to what more personal effort the president might have made. He did a great many things, as you know, to help senatorial candidates. He taped television advertisements. In the last days of the campaign, of course, he was in a number of places, but going in isn't nearly as important as some of the other things that a president can do in support of a candidacy, and he did a great many of those things. At the same time, in all this coattail talk, I think it's important to recognize that a number of Democrats moved very close to the president in terms of the platforms that they ran on in some of these races. That speaks very well, I think, for the coming Congress in terms of getting some of the president's programs enacted.
What about a housekeeping question inside of the administration? Are we going to see any changes in faces?
Well, the president has very deliberately deferred any decisions on that. I can very honestly tell you I don't know, because he hasn't decided, as far as I know. He's continually said all through the campaign that the day after the election is the time to start talking about that.
Well, we'll ask you tomorrow then.
Oh, fair enough.
Thank you, David. Mr. Ehrlichman, we have a state projection, another one in the presidential election. In the presidential election in the state of Maine, Nixon is the projected winner of that state's 4 electoral votes. So Nixon carries Maine to no one's surprise.
We also have a projection in the field of governors in New Hampshire. Governor Thompson, the Republican candidate, is projected by ABC News to be the winner, and interestingly enough, that continues to mean the net gain for either party and among governors remains 0. So far, the offices are staying where they belong. We have to take a look at George McGovern's home state of South Dakota. It's a 9:45 in South Dakota, and there's not a lot of vote yet up in. There about 2% of the precincts have been registered. So far, President Nixon is running ahead 56 to 44% in the home state. One of the interesting things about South Dakota, we talked about the strong Democratic organization which George McGovern built. One of his men, Governor Knipe, is running 60 to 40 in his bid for re-election with the same 2% of the precincts in. I don't know how the race is going for the Senate.
In the Senate, it's curiously enough, the Democrat is doing rather better than McGovern himself has done in the presidential race. The Democratic candidate for the Senate is the man whose name is on the top line, James Abourezk. He's a congressman. The man on the bottom line, the Republican, is Robert Hirsch, an attorney. Abourezk, that name's a Lebanese name, by the way, is a very popular congressman, and he got lots of flood disaster relief to the state promptly and is extremely popular and may well win. We'll have more on Election 72 in just a moment.
Introducing JCPenney Roadrunner cycles. Beep, beep. We make them of steel so they're tough and sturdy. They've got wide track wheels to help prevent tips and spills. You'll like that. Beep, beep. And kids love them because with a JCPenney Roadrunner, you're way ahead. Roadrunner cycles, only at JCPenney. They have everything you're looking for, including the right price. At JCPenney, we know what you're looking for.
Meep, meep. Today I went shopping for a pair of shoes. One pair of shoes. Well, I found these little clunky suede bump toes that I loved. And these crinkle platform boots for only $20.
Very nice.
How do you like these? Hiking boots.
Very nice.
And these soft ones. And these for Saturday night, $14.99. Or maybe these.
Wow, you must have been in every shoe store in town.
I wasn't in any shoe store. I was in J.C. Penney.
The J.C. Penney shoe. We know what you're looking for.
In the state of Texas, there's an interesting race going on. The raw vote shows that it's not very close, but in fact our key precincts indicate that Barefoot Sanders, the Democratic candidate, and John Tower, the Republican candidate, are running just about neck and neck. Now that's the raw vote. Tower's ahead with 55%, to Sanders 44%, but our key precinct studies indicate it's going to be a lot closer before this evening is over.
Up in Vermont, where Governor Dean Davis is retiring after 2 terms, the contest is between Democrat Thomas Salmon and Republican Luther Hackett. And ABC News projects that the Democrat is going to take it. There's 38% of the precincts in. He's holding a 5% lead, and our key precincts indicate he will take the race, which should make the first net change in terms of how many governors we're going to have around for the next 2 and 4 years. The Democrats now have a net gain of 1.
Let's take a look at how the Senate races are shaping up. I think approximately 12 of the 33 have now been decided. No, that's, yes, 12 have been decided. The Democrats have won 7, the Republicans have won 5, and still the only switch is in favor of the Democrats. So far, it does not look good for the Republicans' hopes of capturing control of the United States Senate.
We have 2 projections in my birthplace state of Iowa. ABC News projects that President Nixon will take Iowa's 8 electoral votes for president. He's running 20% ahead of Senator McGovern with 6% of the precincts in. And Governor Ray of Iowa has been reelected. ABC News projects another Republican victory and no change in the net makeup of the nation's governors. Now, in the governor recap, we've got so far a total of 4 Democrats elected today, 2 Republicans. With the holdovers, that gives a composition of 24 and 14, a net gain so far of 1 for the Democrats. And that's the national election story at 52 minutes after the hour.